This is Jake from Reflections, and you're watching Richard Metal Fan.
Hey, what's up, guys? Bringing you guys another episode of Richard Metal Fan Interviews, calling from Zoom, and I'm here with Jake Wolf from Reflection. So, how are you doing today, Jake?
Good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Doing pretty well. Well, not too bad. It's a good afternoon here in Georgia. How's it over? I believe you're in Minnesota. How's the weather up there?
Starting to get chilly, but we're putting up a good fight for the sunshine still. So, no
Yeah,
snow or anything yet.
yeah, yeah. Because I know, no, during wintertime it always gets like cold as fuck up there.
Yeah, it can get kind of rough, but once you get acclimated to it, it can be kind of nice.
Nice, but it's great to be able to have you on. So, pretty much what I want to talk about is sort of like your musical history and sort of do a rundown of the Reflections discography. But take me back to young Jake Wolf. So, growing up in Minnesota, what were the first bands that got you into metal and what made you want to be a vocalist?
Um, the first bands that actually got me into metal music, as as predictable as it may be, my dad used to get CDs from record companies because he worked at a juvenile school. So he would get all these CDs from record companies that were like excessive pressings. So that's how I got like my first Metallica CD, which was actually Saint Anger. I love that
Oh,
album.
really? A lot of people
Yeah,
hate that one. Always, everybody always prefers
dude,
like
I love that
Ride
was
the Lightning or
honestly
Master of
one of my
Puppets.
first things hearing the snare drum in that record. I was like, whoa, like I love this snare. And then everyone hated it. And I was like, what? And now everyone's got the ping snare. But yeah, some other ones, like I think I got there's a band called Cold. They had
I've
an
heard of
album called
them.
yeah, they had some really kind of like radio rockish stuff, but I also had like a Killswitch Engage CD, Godsmack, and that was kind of like my introduction to metal. And from there, I kind of found like bands like Mudvayne and just kept getting heavier. And then when MySpace came around, the deathcore like old Suicide Silence started coming out, and Job for a Cowboy. Um, and I honestly found Veil of Maya around that time too. And when I found like Suicide Silence, Veil of Maya, like that's when I was really like, whoa, what is this? This is like something that I've been looking for. And Mitch was a huge reason why I had wanted to start doing vocals.
Yeah, yeah, he was a legend. Like I met him once when I was like 17 and he
That's
was a really nice dude.
that's so sick.
Yeah. But then tell me about like starting up Reflections because I know the band formed in 2010. So how'd you get to meet everybody and form the band?
So funny enough, I was playing drums in a band uh, where just locally, and we were looking for a guitar player, and I actually had gone on YouTube and was just looking up like Minnesota guitarist or something, and YouTube was much smaller back then. I mean, this was 15 years ago. Um, and I actually found a video of Patrick. It was a guitar entry contest that he had done for I think it was Jackson or something like that. And he was just shredding. And I was like, wow, this kid's really good at guitar. Like, and I didn't really see any info, but it said he lived in Minnesota. And then I went to school the next day and he was literally sitting in my English class. And I was like, what? And I was like, yo, is this like, do you play guitar? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, dude, I think I just saw a video of you on the internet playing. He's like, oh yeah. So I invited him over to our practice. We played. We asked him to join the band that we were in at that time, and um, after doing that for a while, Patty had written the song "Miscommunication," and when he showed me that, I was like, "Wow! Like, let's really try and work on this." And it was very different than the band we were in, and he and I really started focusing on that and like writing demos. And we found a drummer named Bo who we had also played with through that local band at some shows. And Fran's or Patty's cousin Fran was also playing bass, so we all kind of grouped together and started writing the Fantasy Effect. And then one day, um, I think it was Patty and a couple of his friends went to a Summer Slaughter show in Minnesota where they had actually met Charles just like kind of randomly. I don't remember if they had previously known each other, but they kind of talked to him about the music we were writing and showed him the demos of the Fantasy Effect. And um, he came over to my house at the time and we all practiced and it went super great. And we all kind of just really got along super easily and kind of kicked off from there. We just really started honing in and getting ready to play some of our first shows. And yeah, that was like the beginning of the band pretty much.
Yeah, and of course, this year does mark 15 years since the formation of Reflections. Got to think about it, Jake. 15 years of
It's
Reflections.
really crazy.
Did you guys would think you'd be around for 15 years?
No, no. And it's weird because like for 5 of those years we were inactive. So it does feel kind of weird like that. And I mean, the band really didn't even start doing anything until 2012. So, but yeah, when you look back and think like literally fresh out of high school, or maybe still in high school, yeah, still in high school, putting the band together, definitely never thought we'd have any of the opportunities that we were lucky enough to experience.
Nice. Nice. So what would be like a bucket list goal for Reflections? Like what would be like the one thing be like, man, wouldn't it be awesome if we did that?
As of right now, I think I would really love to get the band over to Australia. We've just gotten a ton of good feedback from there, and that's just a place I'd really love to visit and just check off the list because we might be traveling some other places pretty soon next year that I'll be checking that off the bucket list. So, but Australia would be really cool.
All right. And then tell me about like the first album, The Fantasy Effect, came out in 2012. 12, like I know it was like pretty much like self-release. So how what was sort of like the whole writing and recording process and sort of like the mind frame being it was the debut full-length Reflections album?
Man, so we kind of worked on that record for like almost 2 years really before it came out. And it was just so much fun. Like it's never been like that again. Um, because everything was so new and so fresh and so exciting. And we were just at Patty's apartment, like learning how to use a DAW and learning how to use Pod Farm and Superior Drummer and all these things. And those were kind of new tools to us at the time. Because before that we were recording on like an 8 track in a basement, on tape or going to a school that someone was at and trying to record there. So we never had all these tools just like immediately at our disposal like that. And it was very, very exciting. And just being able to like dive into your ideas like that was very new for us. And yeah, we recorded it all in Patty's apartment, literally everything, including the vocals. And yeah, self released. I think we initially just put it up on like Bandcamp and Facebook used to have like streaming music sites on it back in the day. I can't remember what it was called, but we put it on there too and YouTube and the guitar playthroughs and bass playthroughs just really helped it kind of lift off the ground.
Nice. And I know a few years ago you sort of did like a re-recording or remaster of it called Redux. So
Yeah.
so what kind of inspired that to sort of like that kind of new version?
Um Basically ever since we put that record out, the Fantasy Effect, like all we ever like people really liked the music, but everyone always complained about the mix, like just saying that it sounded terrible, this, that, the other thing. And um so we just wanted to try and revamp it and give people something that they had been asking for a long time. And not only that, but it allowed us to release the instrumental version because we didn't have the instrumentals from the original anymore because that computer, I think Patty's computer just kind of died one day.
Oh,
Um,
damn.
yeah, so re-recording everything, and that also gave us new updated stems to be able to play the songs live. So just that kind of stuff was a big reason for it.
Yeah, and I know on that new version you worked with Buster Odoholm who plays
Yep.
with Vildeharda, Humanity's Last Breath, and also works with Throne. So what was that like working with him?
We've worked with Buster on a few things now. We've done 2 EPs, the Fantasy Effect Redux, and he's always been really great. Honestly, before we even put our record Willow out, he was messaging me in like 2016, 2017, 2018, like, what's the band doing? I really want to work with you guys. And, I had told him then that we were writing a record and that it was almost done, but through all the complications that occurred during the band's hiatus, it just didn't work out in time. And luckily, we were able to find our friend Jeff to mix and master it, which still made it sound really great for considering how pieced together that was. But Buster is awesome. Buster is great to work with, super fast, super dedicated, and very professional.
Nice. And then when the Fantasy Effect first came out, did you just play like locally around Minnesota? Did you just start getting outside of the state? Like, what was like the whole record cycle like?
Um, yeah, so I think we actually played a couple of shows before the Fantasy Effect came out. That was locally, and we were just passing out our demos. Um, but then when the Fantasy Effect came out, we started branching out and doing like headliners around the Midwest, and those went well enough for bands like After the Burial to bring us out on our first like mini tour with them and the Contortionist. We got the Midwest dates of the Summer Slaughter tour that year, which was really cool for us. And then we went on our first real tour, like national U.S. national tour in 2013 with the Contortionist and Within the Ruins. So that record really just kind of opened a lot of doors for us. It led us to the record deal that we signed at the time. Getting new management, getting a booking agent. I mean, it pretty much laid all the groundwork.
Yeah, yeah. So then of course you then get signed to E1 Music and Good Fight Entertainment. So what was it about like them be like about those labels be like that's the one.
To be honest, we actually weren't super eager to sign to a label. We were told by our management at the time that if we didn't sign to a label, that the band basically wouldn't go anywhere and that he wouldn't work with us anymore. So we were kind of forced to sign to the label. Um, and it didn't really go all that great for us. I know a lot of bands have good experiences with their label. We did not have a good experience. So in hindsight, I definitely wish we would have stuck it out a bit more. And even our old previous manager at the time, in hindsight now really wishes we would have just kept staying independent because once we signed to the label is when all this turmoil and hard feelings in the band kind of started.
Yeah. And then going into the next album, Exist, I thought it was a great album. It was right around the time where I discovered you guys, because I know it was like a quick turnaround. Like, did you started writing for Exist right after the Fantasy Effect came out?
Yeah, we were writing some of those songs while we were finishing up the Fantasy Effect, and the label when we signed actually wanted us to re-record the Fantasy Effect so they could own it, and we said no. So then they said, well, you have to have a record done now, basically. So we really kind of whipped everything together as fast as we could and went down to the studio, and that was our first real recording experience down there um, at Audio Hammer Studios.
Yeah, yeah, and of course you got Levy from Doth like produced the album. Like, what was that like working with
Mm-hmm.
him?
Um, it was interesting. It was our first studio experience, so there was a lot of learning. Um, like for me, I had a really tough time because I had never recorded vocals for like multiple hours a day, like that, just like consistently. I felt like we could have been supported a little bit more and instead of criticized as much as we were. But you know, Charles did a great job during that time. He was very prepared and ready. I do think it's a little different when you're already honed into something, but it was a really cool experience. Definitely would have been awesome to work with Jason Soikoff, and I think that's what we were originally slated to do, but it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, but I still think it's a like a great album. I think it's a step up because did you felt like any pressure to follow up the Fantasy Effect going into making Exist?
No, I mean, not at the time. I was just really excited. I was very eager to like play new music live because we had been playing Fantasy Effect the entire band's existence. Um, so yeah, it was super fun. I think we all wished that the record was produced and sounded a little differently. That was like a big thing that we ran into during that process was when we got the first mix back. Like no one, everyone was like, "What is this?" And we had to really run back and resample all the drums and just uh, try and make it as cohesive sounding as we could for what we were trying to go for.
Yeah. Like every song is great. Like Exit, Delirium, My Cancer, Lost
Yeah,
Pages. I feel like every song is perfect. It has like different vibes, but I feel like it just the whole flow of the album is just perfect.
yeah. It's definitely listening back to it. It's nice. I think when it first came out, just when you're unhappy with something, it's hard to enjoy it. But looking back, I can appreciate it in an entirely different way.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was it like working with Becca Graham on Lost Pages?
So she actually went to my school. So I had known her since elementary school or intermediate school, and just wanted to have someone singing on the record. And at that time, I had never just done plain clean singing, really. I had kind of introduced the pitch screaming for the band on Exist. Um, but I just thought she had a really nice voice, and the part that Pat and I wrote for her to sing over was it just felt like it called for it, and yeah, it was great. She recorded with my friend Greg, who also wrote the intro track for Exist, the like not not Exit, but the all the orchestral stuff before that. He had written that, so he recorded her, and they were both really great.
Yeah, definitely. And then next up, the Color Clear. I thought it was a great album. Of course, working with Will Putney. What was that experience like?
That was an incredible experience. As I had mentioned, we didn't have the best time with our first studio experience, so we were all actually pretty nervous about the second one. Um, but when we got there, it was a totally different vibe. There were like multiple bands there working. Like I think Counterparts was there, like Moss the Flames was there, and North Lane was there. So that was just like really cool. We're like, oh, like what's up? And everyone was just like working on their stuff. And we worked a ton with Randy and Will. We actually worked more with Randy for that record. He was extremely hands-on with everything that we were doing. And um, I actually felt like we were making friends while we were recording. And it was just it was just an amazing experience. I think it really helped bring the record to life too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know this year does mark the 10-year anniversary of The Color Clear. And being as this album is now 10 years old, do you have like a different viewpoint about it now as opposed to when you first put it out?
Oh, totally. Like for me, all of our records lyrically and even musically, instrumentally for parts that I've written, and I've written more music for the band as time has progressed. Um, but with the Color Clear, that was the most involved I had been musically writing and lyrically at that point. So it definitely felt at that time like just being able to let all these thoughts and feelings and emotions out. And now it like again the same thing with Exist, and even Fantasy Effect. It feels like I'm looking back on chapters of a diary of our lives, which I think is really cool.
Yeah,
So
definitely. And I know like a couple months ago you sort of did like a instrumental and remastered version of that. So how did that idea come to be?
basically when we got the record, the finished version, Will also sent us all the stems for the record. He actually sent us the whole actual project file, so we can open up the actual Logic file for the record, and it's all of his It's literally everything, all of his volume automation, everything is on there. Um, so we were able to render the record out as it was without the mastering or anything, and release that because again, people had been asking for the instrumental versions of those songs since the record came out, and that wasn't something that our label was permitting us to do. Um, but then we also found out through the years of where I was actively working to get us released from the label and get our contract closed before we had to put another record out. I found out that they only own the master of your album with vocals on it. They don't own like the instrumentals. They don't own an unmastered version of your record. So that gave us the opportunity to release it on our own independently without the label. So that's why we did that, to just try and give something to everybody and share more music.
All right. And then you toured for a little bit, and then of course 2016 the band went on hiatus. So what was sort of the reason for the hiatus?
Um, we had some loss in our camp with family members, that people, we just couldn't keep touring after that. Um, just some medical issues, and again, like when we signed to the label, it really changed everything. We weren't getting income from our streams anymore. We weren't getting income from YouTube. We weren't getting as much merch money. We like, everything changed, and we were forced to be touring to try and make money. And our booking agent was also our manager, so he was only booking us with bands that he was managing, which weren't ideal tours for us. So that we weren't going anywhere. And our record label literally told us, and our manager, that the Color Clear wasn't a good album, that no one, quote unquote, no one important likes this record. Um, so they literally kind of just dropped us, and that like dropped us figuratively in the sense that they said good luck, not like you're released from your contract. They still wanted to make the money, but they weren't happy enough with us to try and give us any opportunities. um, that combined with all the family medical things that were going on at the time, we just had to call it a day. And essentially everyone quit the band at that point except me, because I was actually living in our practice space. And I continued to live in our practice space for about 2 years until I was finally able to communicate with the record label to get us to release contract so I could put a record out independently, which was Willow, which I had been writing by myself essentially, um, for those 3, 4 years, which allowed the band to continue and be where it is now.
All right. Yeah, you kind of led me into the next question. Like during like that hiatus, were you still working on eventually what would become Willow?
Oh yeah, I how Willow was written was I literally, so like I said, I was living in a practice space, um, which was really rough. I didn't have like clean running water, toilets, bathrooms didn't work a lot of times, no showers, no food, no kitchen. It's just a big, big room with my drums, my computer, and a bed. So all I did was play drums and just find these really driving patterns that I could remember without recording them. And then I would record them on my phone. And then I would take those recordings and I would go put them into drum MIDI. And then being that I'm, especially at that time, was just really learning guitar in the sense of like trying to apply it to metal music in the sense of something that would be acceptable for reflections. Um, Basically just tried to make like the heaviest driving, low tuned record that I could. And yeah, I worked on that album constantly, and I made the artwork by myself with charcoal and graphite pencils and brought it into Photoshop. I mean, that record was like literally a, a reflection of my life at the time.
Nice. Nice. And of course, like the album came out in 2020, right before the pandemic.
Yep.
Did you do like any tours before the thing started?
Man, so funny enough, we were planning on touring when that record came out. We were even talking about putting stuff together, and I think one of the tours that our manager at the time was going to try and put together was like us, another band, Slaughter to Prevail, and Spirit Box. This was just being
Oh,
spitballed, but it's
wow.
so funny to think at that time before COVID, that's how big Slaughter and Spirit Box were. They were like kind of new
Yeah.
bands.
And now they're fucking massive.
Right, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just so crazy to see what can happen when you have a full group of people really working on something. But no, we didn't get to tour off of it right away. We had to wait until after the pandemic for that.
Yeah. And then I know you did a bunch of EPs starting in 2021. You did the Silhouette EP, and of course you worked with Callie Thomer of Vilda Harda. So how'd that EP come to be, and what was that like working with Callie?
So after Willow came out, uh, I was pretty much at a point where, I mean, I was writing songs like Scapegoat and Alone, but I didn't want to. They weren't ready. I'm very slow when I work on music because I'm very meticulous um, with it, and I have to make sure that I'm happy with the music for a long time. Because if I feel like I'm getting bored of something after a couple of months, then there's no way someone else is going to continue to appreciate it. Um, and from previously talking with Buster, like when Willow came out, Buster messaged me right away and was like, "You should have let me mix this. Like I wanted to do this." Um, not in a mean way, just like in a joking way. And so I had asked him, I was like, "Hey, do you want to work on some music?" And he was like, "Well, I don't really collab like that, but Kale does." And so I hit him up, and he was super down and really liked Willow and the direction. So he sent me some music that he had thought would be cool, and then I was like, "Let's dive into this." So we dove in, and I mean, I switched some drums up, moved some parts around, repeated some parts in songs, and honestly, we kind of became friends through that process, and that release went really great. And I think it was almost 2 years ago now. He just messaged me randomly one day and was like, "We're doing another EP. Like, let's do this." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he already had like some songs fleshed out, so that was really cool. And that's how the follow up EP, kind of came around. So, but yeah, I
Totally.
love them. They're amazing.
Yeah. And then I know in 2023 you also did a little side project called Surgeon. So how'd
Mhm.
that idea come to be to make like a little side project?
Um, so kind of like I was saying, like when I write music, or like if I write music for Reflections, I generally like to find someone to re-record the guitar DIs because I'm not. When I think of Reflections, I think of, and I think most people would, like kind of guitar-driven music a lot of times, at least with our older music, and that's always something that I've wanted to try and bring back. But it's hard to do that on my own because I don't have the capabilities in my hands for that, especially at a Charles or Patty's level. Uh, So I've always tried to find someone else to help re-record the ideas of guitars. And with Surgeon, that was my opportunity to not do that and to start from the ground and just be like, my guitars are totally fine on this because it's not Reflections. It's just me. I'm just having fun. And so that just kind of allowed me to go all out with my own ideas and not take things too seriously and have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot heavier compared to Reflection. And I thought it was it's really some really sick shit.
Oh, cool. I have about an hour and a half of music written for it right now that I plan on releasing after the next Reflections record is finished.
Cool.
So,
You pretty much led me into the next another question, like if we're gonna get more surgeon stuff.
oh yeah, yeah, I'm taking it a lot more seriously this time. I have better equipment at home, so I can record everything much better, and yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it'll be much heavier than the last one and more technical than the last one because I'm really going to try and push myself.
Yeah, definitely. And then talking about like the latest CP Shadow, I thought that was a great one. Is that sort of like with that EP? Is it sort of like something to hold people over while we wait for the next Reflections full length album?
Yes.
Is that or is that just kind of be like a one off thing?
Yeah, I mean, kind of everything that we've done since Willow has been just to try and keep providing something while we're working on this record because we've been working on the record that we're going to release since 2020. We've been writing the songs since 2020. Scapegoat and Alone are on that album. Originally, the record was supposed to be out much earlier, but it went from being another really heavy record to me wanting to make sure that it has a lot of dynamics in it. Um, so it's got our heaviest music and some of our lightest music on it, but it all flows very cohesively. Um, so yeah, the Silhouette EP, the Fantasy Effect Redux, the Shadow EP, the Exist EP, the Color Clear instrumentals has all just kind of been gifts to like just try and provide something so it doesn't seem like we're just sitting around doing nothing for 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is like the status for the next Reflections full length album? Like, how's like the progress with that?
I'm literally probably gonna take an hour or two. Well, I guess the record's about an hour, so probably a couple hours today and listen to it one more time. But I just rendered out all the stems, and I think I'm about to send it off to be mixed and mastered within the next week here.
Cool. Is there like any like tentative release date?
I bet we're gonna probably see another single from it here, early 2026, and the record will definitely be out um, by fall of next year.
Awesome. And so also like in the end to sort of wrap things up, what's next Reflections? I know you've worked on some new music. Is just anything else with the band you like to plug in terms of like tours and stuff, if you're allowed to say?
Ooh, I wish I could. I'm not allowed to say what our touring plans are right now, but we do have some stuff coming up. I believe it's going to be announced in the winter, or at least one of them is. So I'm very, very excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, and again, just we're very close to finishing up new music and having a new record prepared.
Nice. You'll tell me when I turn off the recorder.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. But thank you, Jake. It's so great to be able to have Reflections
Of
on my
course.
show. It's great to be able to chat with you today. It's just any final words you want to say to the viewers that are watching this to close this out?
I mean, anyone that's listening to this, thank you for listening to our music. If you haven't heard it, I hope you can check it out, and maybe we'll see you at a show someday.
Awesome. So everybody, Jake Wolf from Reflections, and we'll see you next time.